For just the very fact alone that you're a spiritual founder, I know that shame has been a battle since young. I have never met any highly spiritually gifted and ambitious woman who has not dealt with shame. It's literally built into our culture. We were shamed into being polite, for not being too much of this or that. We were shamed into covering our bodies to not cause a man to assault us or to lust after us, especially if you're religious. Shame is just, especially in capitalism and this patriarchal way of life that we have all unfortunately been subjected to, shame is the precipice. It is the foundation of so much. And so I know, even in myself, if I have been dealing with shame for a long time, then I know this is something that you also have been dealing with. It's been shame is such a silent battle because it doesn't always surface the way that you would think shame is. I think a lot of people kind of yoke shame and worthiness together. And of course they're related and interlinked in so many ways, but I specifically just want to talk about like the coreness, how we say it, of shame. If you are neurodivergent, if you're highly educated and ambitious, especially if you're a Black woman, a first generation citizen of the US, or a child of immigrants, if you're the eldest daughter, then please also count yourself into this conversation too, because shame touches all of that through our development in those ways too. From what I know about my clients, myself, and what I can assume about you as an audience member for my YouTube channel, you really haven't had a lot of time to just sit down and just kind of just be anything but strong and to figure it out. And you did. And of course, I always want to give you your flowers. And I always want to affirm the go-getter, the successful, resilient person within you. But I also really want to speak to the parts of you that aren't so pretty. Pretty is kind of a frivolous word, but it's just not so, the unspoken parts. To give an example, I also can identify being neurodivergent, first generation American, child of immigrants, among several other things. And I would say the battle that I have had as a founder has always been rooted in shame. And that shame always manifested as something as like intrusive thoughts, or speaking my truth unapologetically and audaciously, or just like self-policing of who I am and how I move through this world. And it shows up in every major checkpoint, or has shown up in every major checkpoint of progress or success or ambition. It's like in every corner of my life, shame kind of waited for me there. It's reminding me of who I was, especially. Like reminding me like, oh, look what happened then. And that was it. And that's the only thing that would come up in my mind. Like, remember this? And I just kind of filled in the gaps there. Personally, I was raised to see shame as the devil's voice. And I'm not going to debate what it is or what it isn't. But I do want to just make it very clear that despite what you believe, shame is a signal, not proof. And I know you know that. And so I don't want to make this video very surface level in that direction for that reason, because if you are the highly educated, ambitious, successful spiritual woman founder that you are, you know this, right? But shame likes to hide. Shame likes to hide. And as your brand strategist, and I like to now call myself an alignment strategist too. When you are fixing to build in alignment, there has to be a clear flow of Rhema. That's the only word that can come to my mind right now. There can only be a clear flow of energy, of truth flowing through you. Truth. The point is truth. Truth in who you are, how you see yourself in who you are, how you see yourself in who you've been, and how you perceive your vision in relation to yourself and to others. Truth is the foundation of alignment. And so where shame takes over in such like a subtle way, it shows up, like I said, in like policing yourself. It shows up in not giving honor to the person that you've had to get to who you are, for not celebrating yourself. It shows up in internal verbal abuse against yourself. It shows up in you justifying yourself and proving to yourself that you're allowed to have something, or even that you are who you already are. And so, like I said, shame is a signal. Shame is a signal of something. And in our instance today, I want to speak of the specific signal of threshold moments. Because as you're on your realignment journey, there are going to be certain spiritual and energetic thresholds that you're going to cross. And shame will begin to flare up, to talk you down from moving beyond your comfort zone. Because to live out of alignment is comfortable to a degree, because that may have been all you've known. Maybe that's what you've settled for. So everything outside of that can be difficult. Shame can look like grief over what you've allowed yourself to endure, grief for what you had to endure to get to where you are. Grief can be pain over how much you've tolerated, or humiliation as being perceived as a failure or someone who just wasn't making wise decisions, especially for the women who are making those really big power moves and risks to realign their company with what God has given them. Shame also always has a location. And I want to make that clear as you are also moving through this process. Shame always has a location. And we always think it's in our mind, because the examples I gave is like self-policing, you're thinking about it. But shame also lives in the body. And this is not like any, how do I put it? This is not like an arbitrary idea. Like, I quite literally mean that shame can live in your body. I work with somebody, and she's an incredible coach. This was back when I used to work with a lot of people, but I remember I was just listening to her speak, and although what she was saying was truth, it was filtered through the shame that was kind of stuck in her throat area. And how do I notice that? That's the more intuitive side of me. But if you were to have talked to her, you would have noticed, or if you had the intuitivity to see what was going on, you would have heard the shame on the undertones, and then you would have recognized it, because there is so much restriction in her authenticity. There was a lack of acceptance of herself on a holistic level. The past versions of her present versions of her, and the versions of her that she believes she's supposed to be. And so it kind of put her in this weird spot to where she's using her voice to do her job, yet it's like how far her impact of her voice can go was limited because there's so much shame in her throat area. In your throat area or your throat chakra, it's just, it rules your expression, it rules communication, all those things like that. For example, for me, I would say that where I found shame the most in my body was in my legs. And I took that as almost symbolism of how stifled in my forward movement I was, because shame literally kind of like shackled my legs together. When I dug deeper into it, I recognized that the shame that I had, I used to disqualify me from becoming aligned because of the mistakes that I've made in the past on this journey of materializing this vision that God has given me. Although consciously, I knew that did not disqualify me, but that feeling of shame, I used that as a disqualifier on a subconscious level to keep me from moving forward. And so the point of this video is, I just want to reframe shame to you in a way that's actionable. Shame is a signal. It's a signal for a threshold that you're crossing. And so if you're the kind of person who gets like really deep shameful thoughts, and you may not be acting on it, you may be, I don't know whatever it is, however it's showing up for you. It could be through feelings of self-harm, even though you've overcome that for a long time. It could be feeling just like this impending doom, your heart is heavy, like self-policing. What else? Just like being constantly reminded of like past thoughts of things that you may have done wrong, or phases of life where you were. I just want you to recognize that this is a signal. And I always tell my clients, it's like, you are the observer of everything, including your thoughts. And shame is not indicative of who you are, but what you're just observing. And so when you recognize that you're having those spouts of shame, I just want you to observe, and I want you to scan your body from head to toe, where in your body this is, because that will give you revelation about what needs to be unclogged for you to take the like unadulterated strides towards your alignment. Personally, if you've been on any journey of healing, everyone's going to talk about shame. I just don't feel like it's talked about enough, because I think shame shows up differently to women who are highly spiritual and ambitious. I don't think the way that shame is traditionally taught looks like what a lot of us go through. I can't say it's a lot more subtle, but I feel like it's easy to reason it away because of how our brains think and how our spirituality is set up. And that's why I wanted to create this video, to bring it to your awareness, to recognize that we're not talking about shame and like, we have to heal and we're trauma, not from that lens, but from a lens of practicality. What shame is and how to use it for advancement. Another way that shame shows up is just in your complete suppression of the past, like just not looking at it, like being capable of looking at it and not looking at it at all. I will say that in terms of building an alignment and actually building or leading your company into complete alignment, or even starting off with just a seed idea and building in a way that is in alignment with what you were given in your vision, does require for you to integrate all parts of yourself. Well, at least along the journey. But a lot of women really do struggle with shame. And I hope that this video reminds you that this should be something that this is not something that you should be ashamed of, or something that is just like therapy speak, because I'm not authorized to even give that kind of advice. The only thing that I want to leave you with is the awareness of what may be going on in your mind and how to practically think through it, so that the next time it arises, when you're at a threshold moment, you won't talk yourself off that ledge, leading into greater alignment. These are some of the things that we go through in the aligned partnership, because shame does come up a lot. To live out of alignment is to live a suppressed life, always. When you are making decisions because you feel like you're supposed to, or if you've never questioned the decisions you're making along the way, because that's just a path of the founder and what they're supposed to do, and you're getting to a point where you realize, this is not me anymore, and I've completely diluted my brand to fit into a mold that I was never supposed to be in. Or if you've just changed yourself to get into rooms that you wanted to be in so bad, only to recognize like, yeah, this is not it for me, and this is not aligned with me at all. The aligned partnership for you is for you. I literally created it for you. Shame is going to come up a lot. I mean, it comes up a lot for me as well. It's just a natural evolution of going from being misaligned to being fully aligned. And I created the aligned partnership to support you through it. I believe one of the antidotes for shame is to be witnessed by yourself, and to be witnessed by others, and allowing yourself to feel all that comes with that without it moving you. And that's one of the things I really hammer into my aligned partnership clients, because things like that will come, and that skill alone will be transferable across several other things that come up on the journey of realignment. So if this has resonated with you at all, definitely click the link in the description to apply. And if you're not ready to apply, I would also highly recommend my newsletter, Letters from My Living Room, where I basically share all the unedited or things that were cut out from my public platforms in that newsletter. So think founder energetics, identity activations, and also just brand alignment strategies. Anyways, thank you for stopping by in this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.